Mr. Speaker, I couldn't help but notice all the blood drain from the Premier's face yesterday when I started asking questions about Enbridge lawyer and unofficial member of the Public Service, Len Hoyt. I saw the Premier give the Energy Minister a look that said, "You get up, my knees have gone weak." Of course, Len Hoyt has a government email address as a member of the Executive Council office, so there's no denying that fact. Of course, Hoyt is identified in a CBC story in January of 2014 as a company lawyer arguing against Enbridge living up to the 20% below electricity cost agreement. I'm very concerned that the Premier is forcing New Brunswickers to pay Enbridge $150 million because his Liberal advisor and Enbridge lawyer told him to. Is the Premier able to stand and address this?
Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm standing up and my legs aren't going shaky or weak this morning, but I just kind of find it interesting, the questions from the members opposite. Talk about doing things different, Mr. Speaker. Talk about doing things completely different, ripping up contracts. I mean, Mr. Speaker, the member from New Maryland, Sunbury West this morning, in his member statement was mentioned about, what was he said, change the rules. Well, they changed the rules, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we're in such a mess that we were. That's why there's no longer a lawsuit of $820 million that is going to have a tremendous amount of impact on our economy, Mr. Speaker. Tremendous amount of impact on educational spending, impact on our health spending, on infrastructure and things like that. But the interesting part, Mr. Speaker, day 13 days since the deal was announced, Mr. Speaker, since the memorandum of understanding was announced, Mr. Speaker, and now we're just starting to talk about it, but I'm still not getting questions on it. Something I don't quite understand.
Prime Minister. Member for Southwest Miramichi Bay Devin.
Mr. Speaker, what we're not getting and what the citizens of New Brunswick aren't getting is an answer to the question. The Gallant government is defending the $150 million gift to the client of their lawyer pal by saying it headed off a big lawsuit brought by their lawyer pal and Enbridge against the government, which Len Hoyt now appears to be a part of. The appearance of this is just horrible. Launch a big lawsuit against the government and get your own way over the taxpayers of the province. If this is all it takes, perhaps Corridor Resources could hire Len Hoyt to launch a lawsuit for them so we can get moving on natural gas. Could the Premier confirm if all lawsuits must be at least $820 million, or will he fold for less? Will he speak up and address this perceived conflict of interest against the taxpayers of New Brunswick?
Order. Recognize the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know where to begin. But the fact of the matter is, $820 million, an erroneous amount of money, was going to be on the taxpayers' shoulders, Mr. Speaker, if we did not settle down and have some discussions and some dialogue with Enbridge on this file, Mr. Speaker. Dialogue is important, and I don't know if any of those members over there have been in business before, but if you've ever been involved in litigation, the first thing that comes up when you get to discovery, say, have the parties sat down and talked about this before you sit in front of a judge. And I think that's really important, Mr. Speaker, is we've had a willingness to work together, Mr. Speaker. That's a tremendous amount of erroneous. So I'm really proud of the fact that our government sat down and talked about this and tried to get to the bottom of this, Mr. Speaker, because it was a mess. It was a mess that was going to cost every single taxpayer in this province a lot of money, whether they burn gas or not, Mr. Speaker. Right. Whether you burn gas or not, you're going to be responsible for this, Mr. Speaker. So I think it's important.
Prime Minister. Recognize the member for Southwest Miramichi Bay Devin.
Mr. Speaker, the first thing you do is declare your conflict. It is a scientific fact that natural gas is almost completely odorless. There has to be something added to natural gas to make it stink. In New Brunswick, we like to add the Gallant government and Len Hoyt. Then it really stinks. The government is giving Len Hoyt's client Enbridge a 50-year monopoly in removing pricing protection for gas customers. The hard-working people of New Brunswick will be hosed again. After the year 2020, gas rates can skyrocket. Why would the Premier do something like this, all behind closed doors and in a secret deal after promising a new approach and to be open and transparent? Why is this secret deal cooked up for Len Hoyt's customer Enbridge, and will the minister get on his feet and tell us if in fact Len Hoyt wrote this deal? Is this a conflict of interest, Mr. Speaker?
Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm getting a lot of zest from the other side there, Mr. Speaker. They're definitely starting things off right. They're doing things differently, completely doing things differently, Mr. Speaker. So I guess this must be their tactic to it. But, Mr. Speaker, fact of the matter is, we just went through a strategic program review where we're trying to find $600 million in savings. Can you imagine the world we'd be living in if $820 million, if we lost this lawsuit, was booked directly on the files, Mr. Speaker, directly on the books of the province, Mr. Speaker? Not many people in the province knew about this. They did not know about this lawsuit. But if this came down and we had to pay out, everyone would know about it, Mr. Speaker. Fact of the matter is, we've got to clean up. You know, we've had to clean up the LaPro issue, Mr. Speaker, the billion-dollar cost overrun. We've had to clean up on the Coulson Cove issue, and that's been an ongoing thing for many years, Mr. Speaker. Also, the $150 million for Harbour Bridge. We can talk about that.